Have you ever been afraid of public speaking? Have you felt overwhelmed with details? Have you looked at office co-workers for inspiration? Have you ever been nervous of public speaking? With all the material down there in the world, experts will say focus on delivery. And as you start looking at research, you get overwhelmed and frustrated. What do? You turn up to the internet, you turn up to the internet and you start searching out for information. And what do you get? Tons of tons of information which are absolutely worthless for you. And ask me, why am I telling all of this? My friends, I would like to welcome you to my masterclass, the public speaking masterclass. It is it is the course that you need to take to attain mastery in public speaking. But before we go further, why would you listen to me? Why would you listen to me? Now, I'm Anshuman Roy. I've done plenty of public speaking. When I began my journey from 2010, almost 11 years in the making, I was hungry. I was so nervous that words wouldn't come out. And this is all about the journey from the path to perfection. Now, public speaking is not about perfection. In my journey, I learned so many. I had so many mentors helping me out. From a nervous and overwhelmed speaker, I started attaining mastery. And from that mastery, I started winning competitions. And after so many years of mentoring and coaching in the public space, I'm presenting you this course. I will be your guide to your journey of public speaking. Now, as a guide, what are our main stops? Now, public speaking is divided into 4 pillars. Number 1, we'll be focusing on ideation. How do you create? It's how do you dream of an idea? How do you sit on an idea, and how do you present an idea? So this concept of dreaming of a speech, this is what we call as an ideation. We then move on to creation. Once you have thought of an idea, I'll give you tools and techniques. How do you create structure and formulate your speech? Because without structure, you would be just winging it. The next pillar, dreaming creation, is how do you calibrate your speech specific to different audiences? These days, everybody who has a PowerPoint presentation believes he is a great public speaker. But believe me or not, this is where most people do not focus. It's on calibration. How do we calibrate your speech so it gets tuned to your audience? And once you calibrate, how do you get fluency in your speech? How do you sound so natural while speaking? Now, get into YouTube. People would ask you to get a teleprompter. Dear friend, the real value of public speaking is when you give a speech, a presentation without a teleprompter. You connect instantly to all your audience. Now, Let's delve. So, overall, I explained the four pillars of journey, ideation, calibration, and fluency. But I'll give you a taste of what we are going to cover in each of your stops. As we start with ideation, ideation is when we dream up a speech, or your boss tells, can you give a presentations to 100 odd audience. Now this is, we start with intent. In the ideation phase, the first step is, what is the intention of a public speech? Now, in the Aristotle's book of rhetorics, Aristotle, the great Greek philosopher, mentions there are four types of speeches. Number one, speak to inform, speak to persuade, speak to entertain, and speak to entertain. So, four types of speaking. But among all these different speech types, every speech starts with an intent. Once we have an intent, we start creating an inventory. Do I need to do some research to put into my presentation? Do I create an, so this is what I call it as an inventory. We collect samples of inventories into a public speaking speech. And once we collect all these pieces together, like a bird collecting twigs for its nest, this is where we are collecting all our stories, all the research, all the information, and putting it in front of us. Putting it, be it post-it notes, be it anything, we are putting it, all our ideas, into a single place. Once we have put in all of this, the next point here is focusing on the pain. Now, what do you mean by pain? You might ask. What problem am I solving in this presentation? Now, if you recollect, the reason I'm presenting this speech is to focus on a problem of removing overwhelm, lack of confidence, and moving you into power. That's the pain I'm focusing on. Now you'd ask me, why pain? My friend, pain is the biggest motivator of public speaking. Pain is a great attractor, as Jim Rohn mentions. If you get into all these advertisements, you can't sleep, this is the medicine. Your coffee tastes too bad, try this brand of coffee. So you'd see that all these advertisers focus on pain, because only when there is a pain, there is a chance people are willing to grow beyond. So in this segment, we focus on the pain of the audience. What specific problem is my speech focusing on? And a speech without an audience is like a wine bottle without wine. Who is your audience? Now, without an audience, your presentation becomes meaningless. It might be just a video which nobody watches. So we focus on these four pillars of ideation. The fifth pillar of ideation is, once we collect everything, I want you to dump everything that's in your brain into a piece of paper. But here's the trick, and I didn't mention here, time it under 20 minutes. Don't give too much time in the ideation phase. I've seen, even I have been guilty when I was a new public speaker, and somebody tells me to give a public speech. I used to prepare, spend hours, days, and months in ideation. Here's the thing, not too much, not too less. Make it just right. Brainstorming. Once you put everything, once you do your research, brainstorm for 20 minutes, put your pieces in. And from this, we move to our second pillar of public speaking, that is creation. Let's create because creation is messy. So, what happens in this particular segment is we like a, like a mason or like a craftsman. This is where we craft our speech. And crafting is very dirty, isn't it? Like you see in the picture, hands are dirty. This is where the rubber meets the road. We focus on creation of stories. Now, why? You have so much facts. You have little bit of fiction. You have humor. But the only way we connect with the audience is with stories. This is where we create stories for our audience. Once we identified a few stories, now you'd ask me before we move to emotions. Story, is it a fairy tale? Now let me take you to prehistoric times or even biblical times. All the religious books, were passed on to fellow humankind with the power of stories. Without stories, things can become utterly boring. Stories, and to layer stories, pack it with emotion. Now, with emotion, I mean happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, frustration. You can pack any emotion in your presentation. Now, I'd ask why emotion? Emotion is, Jim Rohn mentioned, emotion, the intelligent management of emotion determines how great a public speaker you are. From stories, we pack it with emotions. Why emotions? Because emotions is the way you move your audience. Stories connect, emotions move. Then we focus on what is a specific call to action the audience needs to take. Why am I giving the presentation? Without a call to action is like a swimming pool without water. It might be a brilliant pool, but if there is no water, it's meaningless. We focus on call to action. And once we finish this call to action, I'm personally going to give you a speech template. And we'll walk through various templates because no one template can fit everything, every kind of speech. We will be focusing on a specific framework with the help of which within 20 minutes to 30 minutes you would be ready with your first draft of your public speech. Because once we dreamt, we created, though it looks rough at the edges. The third bit is, how do I calibrate? That's the next pillar. How do we calibrate our speech so to have a maximum impact? In calibration, I will give you certain tips of how to prepare. How to build transitions so you move smooth from, say, point A to point B, point C without a break journey. Imagine riding a bike or a car and you hit brake at every 5 minutes you hit a brake. How do you give a speech without bumps? We focus on the classics. How do you build rhetorics in our speech? So this adds more calibration, more more beauty into your speech. And in the end, we again focus back on the preparation. And I'll give you tips of how you can practice to your next superpower. So with these, where from here? You can guarantee that with calibration, you'd get results. You become powerful. You become more influential. You build connection and you resonate with an audience. And in the end, my friend, this entire journey gives you a scaffold where you don't need me or my material anymore. We are going to walk away with tools to build a framework for yet powerful presentation. So, no more weak presentations, no more overwhelm. I am going to guide you through the journey across all these segues of public speaking. Do look for my next video where we focus on ideation. How do you bring intent to a speech? This is Anshuman Rai thanking you for your time and looking forward for our next video.